You ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
And just remember, when you have a deficiency of cholesterol, you're going to get Alzheimer's disease, low T, ED, menopause at age 30. You're destined to get those diseases. In fact, it was in February of 2012, the FDA sent a email to every licensed medical doctor in America. It said, stop prescribing statin drugs.
It's the cholesterol-lowering drugs.
Yeah, statin drugs. Stop. It was an urgent stop email that was sent out to them. They listed 10 of the more prescribed statin drugs. Lipitor, Zocor, Mevacor, Levostatin. Had 10 of them listed, 2 columns of 5 on this email. Said, don't write prescriptions for these drugs. Urgent stop. Paragraph 2. Stop directing your patients to eat cholesterol-restricted diets. Paragraph number 3. Urgent stop. If you continue to write these prescriptions, continue to tell your patients that they have to get on statin drugs and to be on a cholesterol-restricted diet, will increase the risk of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, by 52%, and Alzheimer's disease by 100%. Now I ask my audience as I lecture 300 times a year, when I get to that point on Alzheimer's disease, how many of you have had your doctor forward that email to you? Everybody's looking around, nobody raises their hands. It's been 3 years gone by, not one person has raised their hand and said their doctor informed them of this urgent stop email from the FDA, because they make too much money by prescribing those drugs and having their patients turn into diabetics and Alzheimer's patients.
Is there any recourse that we can take as far
There is recourse.
as lawsuits and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is recourse.
That's it.
Since cholesterol is an essential nutrient, what happens if the body isn't getting enough cholesterol?
Well, the first thing you'll see is you'll get adrenal exhaustion because your adrenal glands, the hormones they manufacture are 95% by weight. Their steroid hormones are 95% by weight cholesterol. So the first thing, they're very active producing steroid hormones, and so you get adrenal exhaustion. Sometimes doctors will get it and they'll diagnose it, or sometimes they won't. They'll just be tired all the time, and just, depressed and that kind of stuff. And then low T, low testosterone, erectile dysfunction will occur because testosterone is 95% by weight cholesterol because it's a steroid hormone. And women get estrogen problems, they'll get menopausal problems, they'll get depressed, and they'll start with the dry vaginal tracts, and they'll get night sweats, and they'll get hot flashes and all these kind of, they'll be emotionally irritable and so forth. And then, regardless of age, you'll start getting dementia because Alzheimer's disease is a physician-caused disease. It's actually caused by a deficiency of cholesterol and other nutrients because the myelin, the white matter of the brain, the insulation material of the brain, is 95% by weight cholesterol. Okay, it makes up 75% of your brain weight, and it's 100% cholesterol. When it goes away, the naked nerve fibers tangle up and cause short circuiting, which is Alzheimer's disease. 44 years ago, it didn't exist even by another name. Today, it's the number 4 killer of adults in the senior class of age. And just recently, just a couple of months ago, there was an article that came out, and the government's now saying, this is a front page newspaper story, that they're expecting an Alzheimer's epidemic in America by 2050 if the rate of increase of Alzheimer's keeps going in the same angle. It is 1 out of 3 Americans, regardless of age, even 2-year-olds, will be having Alzheimer's disease by 2050 because it's a cholesterol deficiency.
And so the doctors
Have created this.
have created a cholesterol epidemic.
Cholesterol deficiency epidemic. That's right.
By giving these cholesterol-lowering drugs.
Yeah, and of course, the pharmaceutical industry is happy because they have Viagra, they have all the treatments for Alzheimer's disease and so on. They have all these treatments for menopausal symptoms. And the problem we have is there's so many people making so much money now from all these diseases, they don't want to see these diseases go away. Okay? And it's really, if everybody were to get gluten-free, and they would get on all 90% nutrients, eat 6 or 8 eggs per 100 pounds of body weight, all these diseases would disappear.
Well, now, I thought eggs have cholesterol. You're not supposed
That's
to
good.
be eating cholesterol.
Well, that's a good thing.
So you're saying eggs has good cholesterol.
Well, they have cholesterol, which is good.
Okay, so the yellow part of egg is good for you. And what's the white part of egg?
Protein.
Protein. Okay. Now, you list a whole host of health issues that will develop with
Cholesterol deficiency.
Cholesterol deficiency. What should the range of our cholesterol be? If, for example, if I walked in my doctor's office and my cholesterol is at 275, and he's, oh, you've got to take cholesterol-lowering drugs, what should my response be?
You're fired and walk out.
Because the cholesterol range should be from what to what?
350 to 500. You look at the culture on Earth that has the fewest cardiovascular events, heart attacks, and strokes. It's the Inuit Eskimos above the Arctic Circle. Their blood cholesterol is around 350 to 500. 98% of their traditional diet above the Arctic Circle is whale meat and whale blubber, walrus meat and walrus blubber, seal meat and seal blubber, bear meat and bear fat. They don't eat vegetables. They don't eat fruit. They don't eat whole grains. Your blood cholesterol run from 350 to 500. And they're legendary. There's been a dozen or more scientific articles published in medical journals, including cardiovascular specialty journals, just in wonder that these people have cholesterols of 350 to 500 and they don't get cardiovascular disease. Well, that's because cholesterol has nothing to do with cardiovascular disease. Nothing. And back in April of 2012, let me back that up. Back in February of 2012, the FDA sent out a notice to all medical doctors by email. Sent them a notice, say instantly, get your patients off Mevacor, Lipitor, Zocor, and all the other statin drugs, lower cholesterol, instantly, because if you use these drugs for 5 years on a cholesterol-restricted diet and lower cholesterol with drugs, it increases the risk of the patients getting type 2 diabetes by 52% and Alzheimer's disease by 100%. Not one doctor forwarded that email to their patients.
Going back to cholesterol numbers, I had a lot of people concerned about their cholesterol. I keep telling them, don't worry about it, and get off their cholesterol-lowering drugs. Dr. Wallach teaches, get off your cholesterol-lowering drugs
Today. Send it to your doctor. Wrap it up, send it to a doctor for a birthday present, Christmas present. In fact, there's a wonderful article back in 1991 in the New England Journal of Medicine, very reputable medical journal published by the Harvard Medical School. And there was a Dr. Kearns who was an internist, and he was a professor there at Harvard. He's taking this little gaggle of medical students doing their residencies and internships with him, maybe half a dozen of them. And he's examining this 88-year-old guy, all his blood stuff. I mean, this guy was perfect. He's like 50 years old chemically, and he's 88 years old. He says, well, what do you attribute being so healthy? Do you have brothers and sisters? And he said, oh, no, they all died when they were young. He says, but what do you attribute your health to? I mean, you're like a 50-year-old man here. You're 80-year-old. What do you attribute that to? And he says, well, I eat 25 eggs a day. I've been eating 25 eggs a day for 15 years. And of course, the Dr. Kearns get up and he ran to the laboratory. He reran all this blood work himself just to make sure it was correct. Came back correct. He said, okay, sir, tell me why you're eating 25 eggs a day. The patient leans forward and he says, because it makes me more studly. Eating 25 eggs a day. He didn't need any Viagra. He's making tons of testosterone, tons of adrenal hormones, right? His memory is working perfect.
So if somebody has foggy memory, foggy brains, hard to retain information, process information, that's another symptom of a lack of good cholesterol in their diet.
Yes, and maybe gluten intolerance. Could be vascular dementia. There's 5 different dementias. I always like to nutritionally treat for all 5 at the same time. And then you have a much higher positive result than if you just try and treat for one. Doctors tend to diagnose everybody with dementia, with Alzheimer's disease, because they get paid more for that.
We have a serious issue with dementia in our elderly population. The baby boomers, retired baby boomers, are coming down with a lot of dementia, and they're in these assisted living facilities, and they are seem to have there's no hope for these people, or that's what people think. But there is hope for the people with dementia, is what you're saying.
Of course. Fire their doctor. Get them out of the nursing home, take them home, give them 8 to 10 eggs a day for 100 pounds of body weight. Not fried, but poached, or soft yolk, or soft boiled soft yolk, soft scrambled butter, not oils or margarines. Get them on the 90 essential nutrients, and sit back and watch. Get them off of gluten so they can absorb stuff. Sit back and watch what happens. I've had people who are diagnosed with, by 3 different neurological clinics, with rapidly advancing Alzheimer's disease. Their sister called me when they were in a hospice, curled up in a fetal position, dying, being fed with a G-tube. She took off 6 months as leave of absence for her job to do what I suggested they do, because the nursing home wouldn't do it. Now, as God is my witness, she calls me up 5 days after she starts and she says, Ray, his name was Ray McGregor, got up this morning after 5 days on your program, got dressed, impeccably tied his necktie, walks out and goes back to work. After 3 neurological clinics 8 years earlier had diagnosed him with rapid advancing Alzheimer's disease, he's now terminal in a fetal position being fed with a G-tube. In 5 days, on a program that deals with nutrients for all 5 dimensions, he reversed, because it wasn't Alzheimer's disease like they diagnosed. It was Korsakoff syndrome, which is a deficiency of a single vitamin. We've known that since 1742, discovered by a Japanese naval surgeon. He just happened to have Korsakoff syndrome instead of Alzheimer's disease, and he responded very quickly to the supplementation with that vitamin.
Isn't that interesting? In 5 days.
In 5 days.
That's incredible.
Absolute gospel true story.